This past week I've completed my annual rewatching of The Lord of the Rings. For me, the greatest story of all time, and certainly the best movie of all time. And I find that the 3.5-hour blocks of time I dedicate to each part could hardly ever be used in a better manner. It's as if I was drinking from a fountain of health, and at the end of it, my soul feels replenished. It's very curious to observe what happens to me in the following days. There is a clearer urge inside of me to do good and to be a better person. Now, it is my firm belief that this will to do good is present in all of us, and we are born with it. We all have this natural desire to produce better outcomes and to do good unto others. Sure, evil exists, but it is often brought about as an unintended consequence of ignorance or weakness of character. Anlin's razor remains for me one of the most useful heuristics to keep in mind when thinking about good and evil. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Malice finds its way into the world not through villains like Sauron or Darth Sidious, but through our collective ignorance and stupidity. We allow it to enter because we don't know any better. Good is inevitably shadowed by the bustle and haste of our daily life and routines. And I think this is where art plays a really important role. There is a certain characteristic of well-being that you feel when interacting with your favorite pieces of art. They are wholesome by definition, something that is good for you and that improves your life either physically, morally, or emotionally. Lord of the Rings and all wholesome art shines a light through the fog of our daily routine. It makes the hierarchy of values evident, what matters and what doesn't. This is somewhat the function that art has been serving since the dawn of civilization, to remind us of what is pure and holy. Art is meant to pull us from our ignorant ways, even if just for a moment. It simultaneously plants a seed and waters the existing ones. The only thing it requires from us is that we stop for a little while and pay attention to it. And this is the very thing that we increasingly either refuse or are unable to do. To experience stillness in our current world is a difficult thing. Something that was once common and easily accessible is now rare and hard to come by, quite frankly. And as with all things that were once commonplace but now scarce, it has grown more valuable. Tranquility and presence of mind are the skills to be developed in the 21st century. Not because they are somehow special, but simply because they have been lost. And their loss has brought about a form of disease, a fast-growing cancer that is turning art into content. It has somehow become normal to produce work solely to distract and entertain. Let's go back to Anlin's razor. Never attributes to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Evil enters this world through ignorance. If our brains are gradually being numbed and stupefied, then the only thing that can come from this is the spreading of evil. And not through some grand conspiracy. It would be easier to blame the Illuminati, the Rorschachs, or the CIA for all the evils of the world. And not that they are clear from blame, but the reality is that the fault is shared by all of us. Our complicit allowance of junk and slop into our minds, our devices, and our homes has diminished art, and a society deprived of art must replace it with something else. And the problem is that there's really nothing else that can adequately fill its shoes. When a culture loses connection to meaningful art, we lose the shared stories that bind us. We lack the moral language to help discern good from evil. Beauty is discarded. Everything becomes utilitarian and transactional. This is something we can clearly observe in architecture. When you look at works of the past, cathedrals, monuments, and churches, they were clearly a lot more beautiful. And I think this is due to the fact that their main purpose and intent wasn't utility. Beauty was the main goal. While nowadays most buildings are created with this minimalist approach, and its intent is to drive utility and practicality. The result being quite plainly less beauty. Nuance has been lost, and contemplation has been traded for quick knee-jerk reactions. The worst part is that a generation raised on this algorithm-based content, never having experienced art, wouldn't even know what it was missing. This is of course only possible because the market so wills it. We are all complicit in this pandemic. Both creators and consumers are to blame. We choose content over art for the same reason we choose fast food over a home-cooked meal. It is not because we prefer it, it is because we are tired. While art requires our presence and attention, content incentivizes our absence. This is the reason you feel empty after binging this type of content and feeling like your brain has literally rotted. There is no value inside of it. However, we do not have to remain complicit. The works of the past are still there for us. There is still art being produced. But if we want to recalibrate our minds to be able to enjoy them, we have to let go of all the slop that is clogging our brain. Putting in place restrictions on the content that we allow to enter our devices is now one of the most important things anyone could ever do for their mental health and well-being. Doing this, not only do you reclaim back your time and agency, but you're also breaking free from an algorithm that is actively trying to turn you against your fellow human beings. You may not realize it yet, but your attention is a prized possession. Billions of dollars are being channeled into media to try and present you a version of the world that provokes despair, fear, and anger in you. The very emotions that will keep you coming back to this trance of brain rot. Ultimately, we can all feel it, the sense that something is missing. Our souls crave for meaning, beauty, and truth, and yet we are not able to give it to them. We have become numb to life, missing out on the experiences that infuse it with purpose and joy. This longing persists because content was never meant to fill it. Art was. We are dying of thirst, and yet we keep drinking salt water. When I finish watching Lord of the Rings or consuming any good form of art, I do not feel empty and drained. I feel replenished and whole, because the fountain is still here for us. We just have to stop drinking from the ocean.